stuff. So when I heard of the, coffee shops were coming in the area, I didn't really really affected either way about it. But spilling my coffee when I leave my house every Sunday morning, which I do every single Sunday, I spill my coffee. And I just lose it. I mean, I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. How? Now, so don't drive by my house about 6 because I'm losing it out there trying to get and here's the reason why. Number 1, I feel it too full, right? Number 2, I don't put a lid on it because I'm not 4. I should be able to drink this and walk with it without spilling it. Well, maybe I'm not 4. I eat like I'm 4. We learned that last week. But so it's like I could solve that. Or the third thing is I try to carry too many things with coffee in my hands, right? So it's preventable. But here's the thing. So I don't really lose it over like major things. I lose it over things. Now, I always wonder why. So why? Why do I do that? Why do I feel like that? So here's why. Because there's stuff going on in me. I'm usually mad at myself. How many know what we're talking about? I usually am mad that I'm acting like this because I'm a grown-up, almost 50 years old, and I'm wanting to fire this hammer down the road. And it's like, why do I get so worked up about it? Here's the reason why. Because we have expectations that go unmet, that they don't get fulfilled in the moment, or they're not happening yet. It's just there's a delay in it or something like that. So these expectations of getting in the car beautifully, drinking coffee, it going so smoothly just doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, something goes off in me. And I don't understand why. And it's because I have that expectation. Because really, it's not a big deal, right? I mean, you just literally just wipe it off. Like that problem is solved by doing this. But for some reason, it's just boom. So there's more to it. There's something on the inside of me that feels like when that happens, there is failure, or there is something that is clawing that doesn't feel complete, or I feel like I'm messing something up. So I want to dive into something. I want you to go to Romans chapter 8. Here is some really good news to start with. You guys ready for this? Romans chapter 8. I'm just going to read it up here. And we know, we're supposed to know this. We know that all things, hit your neighbor and say, all things, work together for good to those who love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. So he's telling us in the beginning, inside of this wording is hidden the idea that not everything may work to your good all the time, or may be going good at the time. He said, but God is always working it to your good. So it kind of tells us that, hey, sometimes, Josh, you may hit your hand with a hammer, but he's going to work all these situations. He will find a way for us to see something good about it. I can use it as an example to tell you, hey, hitting your hammer. Yeah, I hit my hand. So whatever the case is, he can always use it to bring benefit to our life. But remember, inside of that is hidden this idea that it may not always be going good. How many does that feels a little better, doesn't it? Because how many would say it may not be going good right now? It may not feel like it's going good. It may feel like it's going wrong. But he says this, he is in this working. Now, he didn't cause it, but he is working it to our benefit, right? Did he cause me to hit my hand with a hammer? No. When you're swinging and hitting a hammer, you have to watch where you're swinging. I'm like, and I missed. Why? Because I was distracted with other things. Think about that. Distracted with other things. Go to James chapter 1. So let's dig in. There's the first part. He's always working it to our benefit, all right? Second thing, go to James chapter 1. We're going to look at verse 1. I'm going to read all the way down to verse number 4. Let's start in 2. My brethren, here's this great verse. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, right? Knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. So he says this, count it all joy, or an occasion for joy, when you're in trials or testings or pressings, knowing that this pressing of your faith is working patience. Now, how many of you know that this is most of the time our response when someone says patience? You just need to have it, right? You just need to be patient. How many does that help? Does that help you? whenever someone says, hey, Josh, just be patient, right? Tell your spouse, just calm down and be patient. Yeah, right. Now think about it. Why? Because we think that you can just be like, okay, we have the idea of patience as like this, where you just sit down and you just relax. Well, if I could do that, I would. The problem is something's not allowing me to do that. When I put my TV on, if I don't turn it and I don't mess with it long enough, it goes to this serene picture of waterfalls. And it says, do you want to go to a commercial or do you want to go to peace? Right? I'll take peace. And that peace is this waterfall. So they're telling me that if I just have some waterfall in the background, just calm down. Just need to move to a place. Here's the funny thing. There's nobody there. Right? That's why it's peaceful. Nobody's there but me. No kids, no spouses, no girlfriends, nothing. No teachers, no nothing. No customers. It's just me. That's why it feels so calm, right? So their idea of peace or patience is in this position of just have it. Just relax, calm down. Here's the reality of it, is there's an interesting thing because he tells us patience is a huge attribute to walking through life with an abundant outlook. So let's dig into that. You guys want to dig into that? So I'm going to use the veracities. You guys didn't know this. I'm going to use this. So we were at group the other night, and we were at our life group, and my sister has a dog, and her name's MJ, and she was laying on the floor sleeping, and the kids were in there, and they were all playing around. Well, which one was it? Amelia. Yeah, Amelia, the youngest, she goes over, and she's kind of playing. So no one's really kind of watching because MJ, she's over just playing like she was earlier. Next thing we know, MJ jumps up, knocks her over, and he's like, "Rah!" and making this girl. We're all in panic. I jump up. I'm wanting to jump up and take off to rescue, right? Because we're thinking dog attack, right? Everybody else is kind of in a panic. I look over, Ray and Sharon just sitting there. Didn't move. And here's what they said. Happens all the time. I was like, wow. Now, why did we panic? Because we aren't around it, right? And this is what's funny. This happens all the time. And they just looked over, didn't get up, and here comes Amelia, just gets up and runs over and is like, okay, I'll just sit down right here. Because now I thought that was so amazing because they had been down this road before and there was no panic. They were able to just suffer through it long. Why? She'll be fine. Why? This happens a lot. Right? How many of you have been down the same road you're going? In some form or fashion. Let me just tell you something about the enemy. He doesn't have anything new. He just brings it in a different looking package. Same response, same temptations. It just looks in a different package this time, right? And that's what he's trying to do is he just brings the same thing. Now, what he's hoping to do is he's hoping to get us to respond to something because we're unsure of how it's going to turn out. So God is trying to tell us through this verse in James, hey, check this out. You can have an occasion for joy knowing this, that when your faith, now watch this. He didn't say it's the tribulation or the trial that's doing this. He said it's the faith that is being pressed. Watch. What does that mean? The faith in God to carry out what he had already promised or where you're going is what will cause you to be sustained. What does that mean? Patience is not an attribute, it's a fruit. Ooh, come on. Now, how many knows how fruit is grown spiritually? It is grown through John 15 of what? Abiding. So he says the only way that patience or the fruit of patience will grow is if I'm abiding in Christ or I'm abiding in the promise that he made. So I mean this. So when I know I have a promise and I'm getting pressured that is going opposite of the promise, when I'm abiding in that promise and I'm not moved, I can be patient. Why? Because fruit is working in me because I'm still trusting what God's word says. See what I'm saying? We're like, I'm going to not get upset. I'm going to not get upset. I'm going to be patient. And the reality is that it will never cause you to be patient. I'm just going to not pay attention to it. I used to say this, I'm just not going to care, right? I'm trying to convince myself to not get wrapped up in it. He's saying that's not how this is going to cause you to be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. He said, it's the confidence that I have in what God has said to me, the truth, the confidence in the fact that Rain Sharon, she's going to be okay. It's not going to be a problem. That's what caused them to not respond. We didn't know it was not going to be like that. They were like, eh. Now you would say, well, you just not care? No, they just have been down this road before and they knew not to freak out. Come on, just hit your neighbor and say, don't freak out, right? How do I not freak out? There's the answer. When God makes a promise, let me tell you this, he is faithful to that promise. He will never relent on that promise. No matter what circumstances are happening, no matter if it's not going good, I have to know that God is always working it to my good. He's working it to my benefit. Now, let's dig in. We're not there yet. Okay, hang on. Let's go to Romans chapter 5. Romans chapter 5. Good parenting, Ray. Sharon. Love it. Absolutely love it. How many had parents that said this? They're, kids grabbing a TV stand and stuff like that, and you've spanked them like 4 times, like, quit touching that. And eventually you're just like, they'll pull it over in their head. They won't do it the next time. Right? And you're just like, why? Why? Because I'm stressing myself out trying to stop you from being hurt. And you're just not going to listen to what I'm saying. So go ahead and pull it on your head. I'll be there to hug you and ice the knot. Right? Romans 5, look, watch this. But that's not all. Even in times of trouble, we have a joyful confidence, knowing that our pressures will develop in us patient endurance. So here's what the actual New King James says. Tribulation produces patience. So what we'll say is, and this is a common theme, don't ask for patience because he'll give you a problem. But that's not what he's actually saying. Because it's not tribulation that makes you patient, it's the promise that makes you patient through the tribulation. You see the difference? We're just trying to not panic through it. God is like, that's not going to work. That's like me telling you, just don't worry. There has to be a reason why I don't worry. It's like you have, we're just struggling financially, and your spouse says, hey, don't worry, we got this. And you're like, we don't have it. I look at the account. We don't have this. Well, why? Why? Don't worry. Why? Because I'm looking at the account, and it says 0. How do you not worry? I have to have a truth and a promise that's bigger than my circumstances. And I have to trust the one who backs that promise. Remember, the one that makes a promise, the reason why it's so powerful is because they can say something and back up what they say. That's what makes something truth. If I can say it and then back it up. So when God says this, I will provide all of your needs, he is not saying maybe. I might do that. He is telling us, I will provide all your needs. But with us, when it gets skinny in a moment, it's like, where are you? Where are you? And he's always there. He hasn't moved. He's not changed. He's not doing anything else. Sometimes I just overreact to times when it gets skinny, right? How many of you ever got tight financially and thought, we're going to starve to death? And you haven't missed a meal in like 20 years, right? But it feels like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to make it. Why? Because of the pressure of the moment, my eyes coming off of my promise and getting on my circumstances, which causes me to react to it. And then someone says, you just got to be patient and trust God. And you're like, well, I don't know how to do that because all I see is this problem. That's why patience can't come, is because my eyes are on something else other than the promise. Does that make sense? So let's dig in. We're not done yet. Here we go. Let me give you an example. James chapter 1, if you want to go there, back to James 1. So let me just give you an example. Let's go back to coffee shop. So when I first heard that there was going to be another coffee shop, like my initial reaction, the honest initial reaction was kind of a little panic. Like, oh, what do I do? My livelihood. It's a little dramatic, but what am I going to do about this, right? So I started panic. Here's what happens when fear comes in. You guys ready for this? I'll start complaining. Just hit your neighbor and say, it's true. So when I get afraid, you'll tell where your heart of faith is by what is actually coming out of your mouth. Well, better be good coffee if you're going to put a coffee shop in. Right? Now, what am I saying? That's fear talk. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make myself feel better by saying, we got good, you better be good. I'm just trying to make myself feel better. So I have to complain. I have to say something to elevate how I feel. Otherwise, I'll start to panic, right? So I was just kind of like, okay, what do I do? Lord, I just prayed, right? That's what you do when you go to church. You just pray. Okay, God, what's going on here? I'm a little bit weird about this. What's happening? And I just felt the Lord say that. Hey, listen, who asked you to start that? We felt God led us to do this. So my question is, if God led me to do that, why would he be like, oops? Didn't know that was going to happen, sorry. Why would God do that? Now, we would think possibly if we don't know his character, we would say he would do that because he's trying to teach you something. And he would not do that. He would not promise you something and then take it from you. He says his promises, when they're given, he does not relent. When he gifts you something, he does not take it back. He does not remove it. He does not change it. It is the same. Matter of fact, whatever he's promised you in your life, he hasn't changed it since. Still going to do exactly what he promised you. Never going to change it. If he's called you to do something, that call has never changed. Why? Because he doesn't make mistakes, for one. So it's still there. But sometimes it's like, I can't hardly see that. So fast forward. So I felt the Lord say that. And I was like, okay, I feel peace about that. I even told you guys, you know what? He's called me to it. We feel like there's for a purpose. And I felt a peace about it. Did not feel worried about it. Did not hear anything. Well, then, guess what happens then? Hey, there's a third coffee shop coming in. But guess what happened this time? I didn't feel any panic. Why? Because there's patient endurance working in me. I didn't realize it. I wasn't freaking out. I could suffer along through that. It could, no matter what pressure is trying to press down, I can just walk through it with joy. Why? Because God already said something, that he had promised me this, and how many knows when he promises something, he's faithful to it. He does not change his mind about it. It's interesting how we can panic. And man, we could just why? Because that fruit of patience is not developed in that moment. It's not developed because we're used to just kind of shifting away from it and trying to solve it ourselves versus just trusting God through that, leaning back over into the promise. Okay, God, I'm going to trust you and let you bring me through this. And then that fruit of patience pops up. Because we'll say things like this, they're just a patient person. God just gave them that gift. It's not a gift, it's a fruit. And that fruit is developed through abiding in Christ or who you are in him. That's how that works. That's how that develops. Here's what James chapter 1, verse 4. And then as your endurance grows, even stronger, it will release perfection into every part of your being until there is nothing missing and nothing lacking. That's how powerful patience, the fruit of patience is. It says, once I connect to that promise, and I allow myself to cling to that. When pressure comes, we cling to something. So when I allow myself to cling to that, it will start to work in me an ability to stand through something. And when I stand through it, he said eventually that fruit will start to expand into every area of your life. Not just whatever area you were in. Maybe it was a financial thing that you were abiding in patience. You start growing. Next thing you know, it's expanding itself over into your work. Expanding itself over into your family or your marriage and all those things. It's amazing how that fruit, we always think it has to be specific. When that fruit is growing inside of us, it will begin to permeate every part of our life. And he said, and it will permeate it so that you will be complete and you will feel no lack. That's how powerful that fruit of patience, when it's employed into our life like that, when we yield to that, begins to transform us and change everything. Isn't that good? That's so good. Let's go. We're not done yet. Jesus gave it as an example. Are you guys ready for this? Here's the cool thing. Let me just say this. So whenever I had that first encounter about, oh, here we go, another call, I panicked. I felt God spoke to me, reminded me of the promise that he put in our heart. Everybody had this question. How's it affecting you? Right? What they meant is business-wise. And here's the amazing thing. It didn't affect us one bit. Matter of fact, we grew. Now, that doesn't make sense, right? When there's more, why should you shouldn't increase, you should decrease. Just in the simple math of it. But he increased. Why? I have no idea. And so what's amazing about it, so then, here comes another. It's almost like one thing after another. How many of you have been in a place in the last few months where it's like, it's just one thing after another? You may have even said that to each other. It's just one thing after another. It's like we can't do anything without another problem jumping up. And what's interesting about that, let me just say this, we always have problems every day in our life that will jump up. It just depends on how significant we allow them to be. The more significance I give them, the more influence I let them have over my heart. The more influence they have over my heart, the more they have the tendency to shift and to begin to permeate every other aspect of my life, right? So Jesus gave us an example. Go real quick to Hebrews chapter number 12. He gave us a personal example. All right, here we go. Hebrews 12. I want you to look at verse 2. We're going to dive forward, and then we're going to come back to something. So Hebrews 12. Let's read verse 2. Looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. That word endured is patiently endured. So it says Jesus, looking at Jesus, who for the joy set before him. This is a huge line. I cannot have patience without confidence. Okay? Just let that sit in your mind for a minute. I cannot be patient without confidence. So he is telling us inside of this storyline or this verse that Jesus was able to have joy because of what was set before him. He could endure what he went through. So he had to have something he could look at, or something that was joyful, in order to cause him to endure through it. How many of you have ever got into the place with your kids of like the shot bribery? Where you take them to get shots, and you're like, hey, if you'll just do this, I'll buy you a car when you're 16, right? You bribe them, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with bribery at all with kids, because let me just tell you, sometimes it's like, dear God. And so you're like, okay, listen, so if you do this, so my mom, I had to go get shots when I was younger. And I was afraid of everything when I was a kid. I was afraid to get a haircut, all kinds of stuff, because they had scissors. I don't know why, but I was afraid of that. And so my mom said, oh, you gotta get some shots. You know, because how many knows it's not a good idea when you just like, hey, we're just going to the doctor. And you just throw it on them, and they stab them when they get in there, and then they're like, can't stand you forever. But anyway, so my mom says we're going to go get shots. But here's the thing. If you will do this, I will buy you something at Walmart. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Why? Because I had something on the other side of it. I had something on the other side. You know what was on the other side of that? Check this out. You guys remember these? Go ahead and drop that picture up there. You guys know what those are? Come on, somebody name them. You don't even, come on. Oh, yeah. Monchichi. That's exactly what they were. For some reason, these dudes were popular. And they were like these little monkey characters. And they could put different outfits on them and stuff like that. Well, I didn't have one. And so she's like, if you get a shot, that's in your future. And I was like, I can do this. And I remember I got the shot, and I thought I was going to die. Like, I remember the shot, right? I mean, I don't even remember what kind of shot it was, but it was something. And it hurt, and I was like, oh, I just cried. And I was thinking, does crying mean that I failed in this, or can I still get the... And basically, she just, as long as I got through it, we were good. And let me just tell you, that shot hurt like crazy. But let me just tell you also this. But the moment we slid into Walmart, and I got to go down the Monchichi aisle, because it was almost like Cabbage Patch stuff, and I got to pick that, I was just like so happy. And it, you know what? Didn't think one thing about it. There's a scripture that says this with women in childbirth. It says, you know what? Childbirth is rough. But they said, but the joy that comes after that makes you forget about what you went through. You're like, well, I remember it. But that's what Scripture says. He says the joy that we feel and we experience when we see this baby and this child and all that, it's like all that other stuff starts to fade away. Now, it may feel painful in the moment. It may feel uncomfortable in the moment. But because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not godly. It doesn't mean that God is against it. It just means that there's something that is working through you in this process, that God is developing in you. And then what he's developing in you is this pain that you're experiencing, this difficulty to get to that child is worth all that struggle, all that feeling. And so he's trying to show us a very clear picture that when you have something that is set before you, the reason why it's difficult to get through hard situations is because I don't have a promise laying on the other side of it that assures me of what I'm coming through. We'll just say things like, oh, God is with you, he'll get you through. I don't know, that doesn't really help me out. I don't know about you guys. Can we just be honest? When someone says, hey, God is it'll be good on the other side. Well, what does that mean to me? Right? Like, is enduring through this relationship difficult mean that on the other side of this is going to get good? Right? Like, are we going to get along better after this? Can I say this? Am I speaking anybody's language this morning? Or are we just talking like Jesus, but it's not really true? Come on, I don't know about you, but I'm sick of that. I'm sick of saying, God, is he going to do it or is he not? Is this promise real or is it not? And if it is real, that means this, I can hold on to it. Because let me just tell you, when you go through something hard, you're going to cling to something. You're going to cling to drugs, alcohol, pornography, sex. You're going to cling to something. Money. But let me just tell you, all of those have no transformative qualities that will lead to good. It only leads to sorrow. It says the blessing of the Lord makes rich, no sorrow added to it. So that means anything that's not connected to the Lord and his blessing and his favor is going to have an element of detraction from your life. But he says this, but when I trust in him, that blessing will come and there'll be no detraction. It won't have to minus something from your life in order to get you there. That's good. You don't have to lose something. Because how many knows if you want more finances in your life, something's got to suffer, right? If I want to have better finances, that means I may have to work longer hours. Well, guess what's going to suffer? My relationships. Why? Because I'm working more hours and I'm less time doing this. So something's got to suffer. There's a sorrow that's going to add to it. I spend more time here. I can't make more money there. So there's a sorrow that's added. But he says this, there's a blessing. When I trust in what God says, I trust in his favor, trust in his goodness, he said, there's no sorrow added to it. And guess what? You won't have to freak out through the process. So every day I wait on somebody, I'm not thinking, oh, we're going to go out of business. I wonder what that's going to affect us. When that opens, what's going to happen to us? You know what? I don't even have to think about it. Why? Because I have a promise on the other side. It tells me that he is not leaving me, and no matter what happens, he is going to work it to my benefit. And that's just one area. This is talking about every area of our life. What is the promise that is holding me? Okay, watch this. Here we go. There'll be times, right? Here's what verse 1 and 2 say together. Let's read verse 1. Therefore, we also, since we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Notice he said easily ensnares. Why? Because it's easy for us to go back to the same trap that we always go back to. It's easy to do that. It's easy for me to, it is so easy for me to complain. The pony guy didn't show up yesterday, and if anybody was around me, you heard it, right? And what's so bad is I'm like, Josh, stop saying that. But then I'm like, I want to say it, right? And I'm like, you got to show, and then Tara and Justin walk in, I'm like, yeah, pony guy didn't show up. I had to tell them. I'm like, what's going on, Josh? Why do you feel the need to do that? Why? Because I'm frustrated with it, irritated. Why? Because it's easy to ensnare me when it doesn't go my way. So, therefore, here it comes. So you can tell where my confidence is at. Like, I'm really getting tired of myself. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting really tired of myself because I can hear it when I'm talking. And I'm like, I know that's not who I am. But why do I keep? You're like, dude, you got problems. No, this is how it operates. I know who I am. That is not me. Why do I think that way? Why? Because it's an easy snare. It's easy for me to slide back to that versus to be like, you know what? That does not even matter one bit. What matters is we are having a wonderful time out here and people are being blessed. Jesse was just grinning the whole time I'm saying that. I'm like, why don't you gripe with me? That's what I'm thinking. Why don't you complain about this guy with me? He's just like, oh man, look at the people. They're having a great time. I'm like, pony guy. All because of that. Now notice how easy. Now how many of you can say in your life there's something that easily ensnares you like that? He said we're going to have to lay that aside. Now when you lay something aside, you have to pick something else up. You can't just say, I'm just not going to do that. And you just watch it. I'm not going to gripe about the pony guy anymore. Not going to say anything about it. Not going to do it. Not going to pony guy. I'm blessing the pony guy from now on. And all you're doing is thinking about the pony guy, right? because I can't move on because I have not put on something else when I put off this. So I have to put on something else. I have to put on the promise or something that covers my mind with the things that God has spoke over me. Let me finish this verse, right? Let's run with endurance, patient endurance, the race that is set before us. Here we go. Looking unto Jesus. There's our answer. You know how Jesus got through the joy set for him? He looked unto the Father. He had promises like this, bless you. He had promises like this. I will not leave your soul in Sheol or in hell. I won't leave you there. So that means when he died on the cross and he went there, he had a promise that said this, he's not going to leave me here. I'm in this place. I'm in this hell for 3 days and 3 nights. He was suffering for us on our behalf, 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the earth. And he had the promise that God told him, I will not leave you there. He told the disciples constantly, hey, I'm going to die, but in 3 days I'm going to raise. He had that promise that told him in 3 days he's going to raise me out of this. That's the only thing that sustained him through that process. He wasn't any different than us in his response. He had to operate in faith to do this. He had to trust the promises of God. He said, that's how I could endure all the cross, the shame, all of that, because I had something to look unto. And the joy that was set before him, what was that? The redemptive work of man, our righteousness in him coming to fruition. That we were going to be redeemed. He had that joy set on the other side of him. So that's what his eyes were focused on the entirety of that process. The only thing that could sustain him, that he was clinging to, was the promise that God gave him for the other side of it. The joy set before him, he endured the cross. Let me tell you an example. So I remember when I was playing baseball in the minor leagues, I was always younger on my team. So I would be like 21, and the guys, most of them would be like 24. So I was always younger, so I was a backup in my role a lot. So I was a backup catcher in my role. So in the minor leagues, you play 142 games. You play every day except 2 days a month, and those are travel days or you get a day off. So you play every day for however many months that is, 142 games. So 142 days, I have to walk into the clubhouse, walk by the lineup card that's on the wall, and look and see if my name's on the lineup, okay? As a backup, that happens about maybe 75 to 85% of the time I'm not on there. And he didn't come to me, they never come to you and say, hey, Josh, this is what's going to happen. You're going to play about every 7th day. So just get ready for that. How many knows that would help, right? Hey, every 7th day, you're going to get to play. Then I could be like, I'll just mess around for 6. No, I wouldn't do that. But he didn't do that. It was just every single team I was on, you just walk up and have to look. So every day I looked at that lineup card, it was like, good God. Go back, sit in my locker, get ready for a long day of not playing. Now, I don't know about you, but it's kind of like work because you go catch bullpens. It's not fun. Take batting practice. That's not really that fun either after 142 times. Take infield and go sit on the bench. I'll watch this game. So what's interesting about that, I would just always get frustrated every single time I read that lineup card. Why? Because I always expected to play. I always like, I'm going to get to play today. Oh, what the heck? And I remember I developed this. I don't even care. I'm not even going to look. I don't even care. Well, then I'd have to go look because if I wasn't ready to play, they're like, hey, you're playing today. Oh, well, I guess I better get ready. But I had to look. And so I just tried to develop this, I don't even care then. And guess what? That didn't make me any happier. How many knows if you develop the attitude of I don't care, you don't get any happier. You actually just get bitter about not caring. And you don't even like the guys that are playing. You're like, I don't even care if you succeed. Starter. And what's interesting about that is I had to understand something. I had to come to a place, and it took me a while to even think this way. It was like, okay, Josh, calm down. First of all, you're younger. This guy deserves to play in front of you. For one, he's better than you. Ooh, I didn't want to hear that. He's better than you right now. But check this out. Doesn't mean that you're being rejected. Come on, just let that sit. Doesn't mean you're being rejected. It just means that you're developing. And your development, it may not be the season that it's your time, but you're developing in that process. But the only thing that can hold you is if you can see yourself being this one day. Now, I couldn't do that. That's why I struggled so much. I couldn't see myself doing it. Why? Because I was so entwined into what I seen every day that all those failures just kept culminating. So I was like, I don't even like this anymore. It's amazing how when you have that unrelenting disappointment, Scripture says your heart will get sick. Meaning this, you'll finally just say, I don't even care. I don't care what comes. Because you get tired of hoping and it constantly being disappointing. Our expectations get unmet. So he's trying to show us here, how do we do this? We have to remind ourselves of what his promise says. Remember, we have the power to permit or to forbid it. The keys of the kingdom. I can permit this in my life or I can forbid it to be in my life. And that's what already's been permitted or forbidden in heaven. So if God authorized it for us, if he said to us, you can have this kind of life, then he's permitted that for us. So therefore I can grab it. Here's the key right here, last verse. How do I have to respond? Luke chapter 9, it's an amazing verse. You guys know Jesus is about to feed 5,000. They've got 5 loaves, 2 fishes, right? Not enough to feed them. And they hand it to Jesus. How many knows that if you've ever been in a situation where you're trying to pay a bill, it's like $500 and you've got $4. You look at it, you're like, this ain't gonna help, right? So now watch. Jesus gets this and receives it. 5 loaves, 2 fish. One of the disciples says, hey, what is this among so many? Like he was really helping out. Jesus does something. Watch this. Here's what it is. He took the 5 loaves, the 2 fish, looking up to heaven. Now this was interesting. That doesn't just mean he just went because he was trying to see God up there. Looking unto means to look up to recover lost sight. So what he did was he was looking away from his lack and he was looking up to recover his sight, to look to the Father, and he began to he blessed it and broke them and gave them to the disciples for the multitude. And how many knows when they started to distribute out, it never ran out. But no, what he had to do, he had to stop and recover the sight that he lost. I mean, like, what does that mean to us? What happens is why we get so frustrated, I get frustrated, is because I've lost my sight. I've lost the sight that brings me peace or brings me joy through the process. And he says I have to recover that. I have to recover what it is that the enemy has blinded me to, so now I can recover what it is and the promises that he's given to me. Does that make sense? So this morning, what we're going to do is I want you to stand to your feet. We're going to do something really, really fascinating and dynamic. Here he goes. Ready? So Jesus looked to heaven. Now, what does that mean to us? Think